of those individuals is Peter Schiff, the CEO of Euro-Pacific Capital, who moved his asset management firm from Newport Beach, California to San Juan. I spoke with him and asked him why he decided to relocate.
Well, I did it for the obvious benefit of being able to keep most of what I own. I mean, that's not the case here in the United States. The government takes most of what I earn. But if I earn money in Puerto Rico, thanks to the fact that they finally reduced taxes there, I get to keep a lot more of what I earn. It's too bad that Puerto Rico didn't do this years ago. Sure. I mean, you know, for a lot of Americans, if you have some wealth, if you have some businesses, for the privilege of renouncing your citizenship, the U.S. government imposes a very heavy tax. And if you don't want to pay that exit tax, if you just want to leave the country, no matter where you live, if you're earning money, the U.S. government wants its cut. That is uniquely American. Most countries, if their citizens travel abroad, they let them go freely. You know, they're allowed to earn money, and they're not subject to the tax. In fact, now they want to even revoke your passport if you owe more than $50,000 in taxes, and turn this country into a giant debtor's prison. But Puerto Rico is kind of a get-out-of-jail-free card. It's one of the only places, or maybe the only place in the world, where Americans can go and be free. We can be treated like citizens of any other country. If you go to Puerto Rico and earn money, the U.S. government doesn't tax you. Only the Puerto Rican government taxes you, and now they're not taxing you there either. So Americans can experience the freedom that until recently was only available to people who were lucky enough to be born in other countries.
In July 2016, Puerto Rico defaulted on its debt for the third time, leaving its bondholders another $800 million short. This follows a multi-year debt crisis in the unincorporated territory, stemming from expired tax incentives for U.S. companies, an economic depression, and government inefficiency. Although some are optimistic about Puerto Rico's future, others have already referred to it as a failed state. So is Puerto Rico a failed state? Well, the term itself is widely debated. But according to the nonprofit Fund for Peace, there are 4 main characteristics to a fragile or failed state. One characteristic is that a fragile state loses the legitimate authority to make collective decisions. This is a bit of an interesting question for Puerto Rico, which relies heavily on the United States. Its economic boom was predicated on giving tax incentives to U.S. businesses, and there was even a law from 1917 requiring all imports to be done on American ships with American crews. In fact, the current debt crisis has only been managed through the direct authority of the United States after President Obama signed 2016's PROMESA law, establishing a federal board to restructure Puerto Rico's debt. Another hallmark of fragile states is an inability to provide public services. The monopolized energy service, Puerto Rico Electric Power Authority, is pushing to raise electricity prices by 26% in early 2017, and all residents, even those with little to no income, will be forced to pay. But despite the rapidly increasing costs and the fact that more than a third of those who live in housing projects have reported an income of 0, Puerto Rico itself has been able to provide utilities to those who are able to pay for them. A fragile state also often loses control of its territory and/or police force. Puerto Rico's police force has been plagued by corruption and human rights abuses for decades. According to a report by the Department of Justice from 2005 to 2010, roughly 10% of the police force was arrested for murder, assault, drug trafficking, and other crimes. The ACLU put out a similar report calling Puerto Rico the island of impunity. Finally, fragile states are unable to interact with other states as full members of the international community. Simply put, Puerto Rico is not a full member of the international community as a dependent and unincorporated territory of the U.S. The downgrade of its credit rating to a D for default, as well as an influx of the Zika virus around summer of 2016, has made it risky to invest in and even visit, and has made negotiations with other countries relatively fruitless.